What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we are working on our image editor, and today's topic is trying to get user editable shaders working. So, the idea behind the project here is we are trying to replace GIMP in some way, shape, or form. We've had this like test case that we're working with. We're trying to make this image we are calling Slurpee Banister, Cersei Lannister holding a Slurpee on a banister, right? So the inputs to this are like, we pass it a few images, our like Cersei Lannister, our Bannister, and our Slurpee. We have some like way to be able to like cut this thing out, right? So we can like make a path, we can like wiggle it around. This thing will like generate a mask. Here you can see we're making her arm pointy. We like take this thing back, we go over here. Now it's not pointy. This thing gets like applied to the initial image. Same thing with the Slurpee, and then we like compose these things together. And in the composition view, we can be like, I want like a bunch of, maybe we want I don't really want to show the mask. I want to show like the mask object. Maybe we want like two of her, and maybe we want to like turn one around, right, and make her fat or something, right? Like, we have like the ability to work with stuff. We like rotate and stuff as well. We have some stuff. And what is the goal for today? Right. So, the way that this masked object actually works is this creates an object that has a type of shader. And the shader is like running an OpenGL shader on this thing and basically just multiplying the input image by the generated mask. And my thought for like the project as a whole is that this like concept of running shaders on images is extremely powerful, right? You can do almost anything with that. You can do like a gradient paint bucket by having your shader try to like adjust a mask from left to right side, right? You can like do lighting changes by just applying a shader that looks up a texture, that looks up like the current brightness in a texture and uses that to adjust to a new brightness. You can do like contrast and brightness enhancement, right? All of these things come for free if we kind of assume that the user, me and only me, if we assume that that person is capable of writing a shader. Right? And I find that like when I'm working with an image editor that like I know mathematically what I want, but I struggle to find the UI to do that, right? And so like this kind of solves that problem for me and me specifically. But as it is right now, we can't really do anything. So what I want to do is I want to find a way to like expose shaders and their parameters to users, i.e. me, right? So I think the plan of action is I want to like add like UI here to like edit a shader, right? So like we have this like shader that we call like mul shader somewhere, mul fragment shader. Where is this thing defined, right? And this thing like takes in two textures and like multiplies the mask red value by the like value of the input image, right? And so like really this is like a super generic thing, and it would be nice for me to be able to like in the shader editor have like a drop down that basically says what are my two inputs to this, right? Maybe I have the same mask and I want to apply that same mask to like 4 images. And like maybe I want to do something else. Say I want to do like contrast enhancement. Well, it'd be nice for me to be able to like go in here and be like contrast amount in here, right? And like make him a float or something, right? And then in here we could just be like val is equal to this and then like times contrast amount. And then I think we probably have to like subtract 0.5 or something before doing that, but whatever, right? Like you can do contrast like that. And then it would be nice to just have like the slider that you have in the UI. You could just like play with the amount on the fly. So the first thing I want to do is like find what uniforms are available in my shader and then show them in the UI in some way. Then I want to be able to edit the shaders. So right now the only shaders that we can use are ones that are like, you could technically go into the save file and look for a shader and edit it in here. That is something that you could do, but really there should be a better way to do this. And I'm thinking I don't really want to write like a full-on editor. That's wrong because like, you'll never make me happy and I'm the user. So I think what's better is if I could just use Vim to edit the shaders, which means that it would be nice to like export any shaders that are in the program into some sort of temporary directory, let me open them with my file editor, and then like basically on every save, try to like reparse them in some way. And then I'm kind of hoping that with that we'll get to somewhere nice. And if we rip through all that too quickly, right now we have like, we instantiate the same program over and over and over again, which is maybe not great. It would be nice to have like a bank of shaders that I can edit. Because like right now, if I like create the same thing twice, I'd have to like edit the same shader twice or copy it or something. It would be nice to have some form of like like shader registry that I can say like, okay, I want to use this shader with these inputs, this shader with these inputs, this shader with these inputs, right? So if we get through everything too quickly, we can work on that. But I suspect that we might not. We'll see. But let's just jump in. First task. Let's find some uniforms. So I thought I was really excited. I thought that I was going to have to write a GLSL parser that like walked the input and was like figured out the uniforms that way. But then Rickerston, this guy in my chat with no vowels in his name, which makes it hard to read a little bit, told me that there's just like GL active uniform, which is way less fun but way more reasonable. So we'll do that instead. So I guess somewhere we have this like program that we run on stuff. Plane render program. This takes a plane and he renders him with some arbitrary fragment shader. And I guess in here somewhere we should just like say what our inputs are, I guess. Right now we pass in the texture names as like an input parameter. And I guess we just don't want to do that. I think instead, well, I guess for now we'll do that because we don't really have a way to hook stuff up in the UI, but we'll remove that later when we get what we want. So let's say that we have like params, uniforms. And I guess these are going to be like names, but they're also going to have types. So we're probably going to do like something like this. And he's going to be like name, type. And this is probably going to be like a uniform type. GLSL type, maybe. And I think probably also like a location where it is stored in the program that we've linked. And so now we need like a GLSL type, which is going to be an enum probably. And we'll just say right now image. Sure. Because that's the only thing we can support right now. Okay. So now what? I guess we say get me the active uniform, returns information about an active uniform variable for a specified program object. So we need to get the index, which means that we probably need like the number of uniforms, which maybe was going to be in like a C also down here. GL get uniform. How do I know like how many there are? Maybe I just increment this until it gives me nothing, right? Surely at some point it'll be like, oh, here we go. GL get program with GL active uniforms. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Okay. GL get program. Probably IV with program. So we have that here. And OpenGL takes signed ins for its uniform locations, a lot less incasts. All right, that's a good call. Good call. Get program if with GL active uniforms. Okay. And I assume this returns one thing, right? So probably we say like num uniforms here. Which is a GL int. Okay. And then I guess we kind of walk these. So for if num uniform is less than 0, greater than or equal to 0, I guess we are happy. So I guess if it's less than 0, we're not happy. Invalid num uniforms, I guess we'll say. Then we can go like for 0 to int cast num uniforms. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to try to get it. Womp, womp. All right. So this takes in our program, the index, the buff size. The fuck is buff size? That's fair. Name. We're gonna have like some name buff. Okay, so buff size is just int cast of name buff. Len length is the output length, which is a CGL or sorry GL size I. Okay. The size? What's the difference between size? Oh, size of the uniform variable. Fine. Which is also a GL. Oh, it's something else. Fine. GL int. So we'll call this uniform size. Okay. We need the type, which is GL enum. Like this, I guess. Okay. Who the fuck puts the length of the name buffer and the buffer itself in different spots? What a crazy decision. Okay. Can we put a comma here? Because it needs to wrap and then go like this. There we go. Much better. All right. Does this thing like return failure? No, it just says void. So how do I know if it's wrong? The value of 0 for index selects the first active uniform. Permissible values for index. Sure. I guess we just assume that this is fine. And so now we need to like create this thing. So I guess we're gonna be like, here are our uniforms. We're gonna unconditionally denet those things because we're gonna convert them to a slice at the end. Okay. Sure. And so now we have like uniforms append. And in here we're gonna be like name duped is gonna be Alec dupe. I wonder if this is gonna be simpler with a :0 on here for a C string. I think we don't need C strings because we're gonna refer to everything by location, so we don't actually care about ever using the name in like a GL API, so I think this is fine. Get this the fuck out of here. Which kind of means that in here, we actually have to go, like... We have to get a little crazy in here. We have to go for uniforms items. We have to, like, dein where the fuck is in here, too, right? Probably with some allocator, probably... like this. I think I'm okay with taking a non-mutable pointer here. I'm just gonna say like Alec free self-name. All right. GIMP like Photoshop. Yep, just like Photoshop. And ours is just like Photoshop as well. We're all just like Photoshop. Okay. So now this is just like send me name equals name duped, and then what else goes in here? Type. So here we're gonna have to like parse the type, I guess. So here can we go like from GLSL from GL type, which is gonna be a GL enum, I guess. And it's gonna return a GLSL type. And maybe here, like GLSL type is the wrong name. May be wrong. This is more like our internal representation, but we'll figure that out later. And for now, I guess we will allow this to fail. Maybe maybe like failure is maybe strong here. We have stuff that we know we don't support, so it seems reasonable to be like, if we see whatever the fuck, sampler 2D like this, we see this, then we're chilling. but otherwise return null. That seems reasonable to me. How's that looking like? We can give you a demo. Maybe we can show you. It's not too bad. This is what we have right now. We can like, take a thing, mask it off, to create like a alpha'd out thing of it. We can like add this to some sort of composition. Maybe we don't want this one. We probably want like this one, and then we can go like scale, and we can go like rotate, right? So we have something. It's okay. There's a lot of work to do, but we're working on today is trying to get shaders to work correctly. So we can apply arbitrary shaders to these things, but we're trying to make them editable by people like me on the fly and like parameterized. Can you draw? Not yet. Eventually, we're going to probably make brushes as shaders is like my idea. So we're going to like create paths that have some shader applied to them based off distance to the path or something. But I think that I'm going to handle that later. Later. Okay. So we say, yo, does this thing have a type? So if we fail to parse the type, then we probably just continue. So we probably say like parsed type is going to be like GLSL type from GL type using uniform type like this, and or else continue. No, I think we're fine with rewriting. It was just from a git stash and pop. And then what's the other thing? The location. So we're kind of chilling here. We have like lock is equal to I int cast, and then the type is just parse type. There we go. Seems reasonable. This needs to be tried. Nothing else I think is like leaking in there. This should probably be split out probably somewhere. I don't know where, but it's fine. And then now we have the list of uniforms. It would be maybe nice to just look at them. So can we just say like, what's in here? This is a good starting point. A good starting point. Hello, can I please get a fucking quote in here? Thank you. Uniforms, items, okay. Let's just see what we got. Fuck! It never works, it never works, it never works. This thing needs a U8 here, and then there was something else. Return image, he's pissed off? Why? What the fuck is the problem here? Does not support field access. Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And then, what was the other thing I was complaining about? Fuck. Name buff needs to be coerced to a slice. And this is actually needs to be name buff from 0 to nameland. That's an important part of this. Fuck. And then nameland needs to be int cast like this. And I think we probably then, that means that we need to assert if name length is less than 0, we need to continue as well. And probably we need to like error log. Probably, but this is probably good enough for now. Okay, so here we are getting uniforms of varying length. So yeah, I think this is right. So we're seeing like we have some of these that are like color swap shaders, right? So this like swap. These each have one input, right? So that's this one, and this one probably, maybe this one as well. Then here we have our like mask application shaders that have 2 inputs of image type, which is pretty sick. Pretty sick. Okay. So now what do we want to do? How do we work with these things? I guess we should look at our object storage and see what they look like. So we have like shader objects that do store the program here. So probably what makes sense is like, we can just query this thing in the UI. So on here, we don't even have to make like an API. We can just look at the uniforms array, fuck it. Which means that here, we can probably just also say fuck it. We'll just let the UI look. I don't really see a problem with that. So can we go like main here, main, where the UI is written. And can we just say that like if we're in the shader view, we'll just be like, here's our shader. And like, just let me take a fucking peek skis in there. Right? Like, what is this? This should be an object, right? So it should be able to be like shader dot program dot uniforms. Yep, nice. For each of these uniforms, let's look at them. And we'll be like, I guess we want some sort of table in this thing. Right, we probably want to do something like this. And then we want to be like, at the end of this thing, excuse me, to end the table. And then presumably we need to like, I guess each time we go into one of these, we're going to be like, here is the name of the uniform, which is fed into a C API, but I think that we can kind of do it like this. Uniform len name len and uniform name pointer. I think that this is okay. Let's start there and just see what that looks like. So if we go into like mask object here, we do have the names of the textures here, which is really cool. And so I guess now we're going to be like, depending on the type of this thing, right, we can kind of go like this. We only support images right now, but I think that we're going to be like, yo, send me the next column. And let's just get crazy in here, right? Let's just be like, let's fucking make a drop down. So I think that we can say that we want to add a drop down that has every single image input in here. So let's start there. Where is like begin combo? Jesus Christ, dude. And his current value is going to be like from the bound texture. So how is this going to work? Someone has to hold the state of like the bound uniforms. Right? So like what we want these uniform values to be. So I guess that maybe that lives here. So we have like the render program, which tells us like, yo, this is like our program and this is like the parameters of that thing. And then when we call render on this thing, we should like have to pass in, which I think we do. We have to pass in the list of like things that we want to bind to it, right? And so I guess that means that whoever calls render then will have that metadata outside. So this guy, the shader object, will just say like, here are my bindings. And presumably this is going to be an array that is the same size as like the list of uniforms of like nullable things, probably hand wavy, right? And for now, we might be able to get away with being like, here is a texture. We might want to say that it's a texture reference. In which case, do we make it a pointer to a texture? That seems kind of bad. I think that instead we'll just make a strong type of, we'll make a type texture ref. And since we're like not the owner of that thing, we can just like hold on to this, right? We can be like texture ref. He literally just stores the texture ID, but just has no deinit function, right? And that just makes it so it's clear to us as users of this thing, like, oh yeah, don't fucking worry about it. Why was I doing it this way? I think I've lied, actually. I'm a liar. I'm a liar with my pants on fire. What I'd rather have in here is a list of object IDs, I think. right? So like, which kind of matches what's here. So input images will be like eventually gone, remove, right? Input images will be replaced with our bindings to the uniforms, and we will get to like set these from the UI. And then probably also this will go away because these are going to be like UI set now, which is pretty reasonable. Okay, so on off rip, I guess we go like make me a set of nullable object IDs. Alec, this many object IDs. Like this. So this is going to be the bindings. And then error defer binding, Alec free bindings, okay? And then down here we'll just be like, boom, slap that shit in there, right? And then in the UI, I guess we check what the bindings are. So let's go by index here. And bound object ID is gonna be like shader bindings at index. Okay. Then we'll be like bound object name is gonna be like if we have a bound object ID, we're gonna get one thing, right? So we're gonna be like objects dot get ID name. Otherwise, we have some like none, right? Then we can put that here, except this thing needs a nulled string for the preview value, so bound. So can we use the name here, actually? We might not need a column here at all. We might just be able to put the uniform name right here as like the label for the combo box. That's kind of sick. That's kind of sick for sure. So fuck the table. Get me the fuck out of here. Instead, just fucking hit me with your best shot. Name buff. We have to like buff print Z to say, give me this thing, and it's gonna be from uniform name like this. Name, you'll try this. Then here we can put the name here. Okay, nice. And then the current value is going to be bound object name. So is this thing, we have to do the same fucking shit where we have like, bound name buff is going to be another one like 1024 U8s. Woof. But whatever. Then we do another buff print z to make it null terminated. I guess we can go like this. Yeah. Yeah. That feels right. And then we need to put this into like bound name buff like this. And then we put this here. That feels right to me. He's mad at 315. I did forget to use the name buff here. All right, how's that look? How we looking? So now we can go in here. We got nothing. Nada. What are we doing? Oh. We do think that we're in a table, which is fucking stupid. Let's try again. There we go. No, wrong one. Fuck. Crash. Crashy. In object zig 557. Oopsies. Which comes from this buff print at 323. So I don't have an ID? Why? Bound object ID. So if I'm like, hey. Oh, do I not like set that thing? I do just not set it, huh? We do need to initialize our variables. Okay, sick. So he's none. Now he's pissed off that I don't have CIG end combo like this. Okay. So I think we're in a pretty good spot there. Now we have some input thing, and now we just have to be able to like do something with it, right? So we're gonna like, does it say the texture name there? Yeah, here he says U texture, which is sick. So now we just have to give all of the options. So I think that here we just want to like literally add every single composable object, which we actually kind of have here, right? So we might want to like kind of factor that out into like show selectable objects. Show add composable objects. Something like this. You're going to take in the object list. And we'll have to figure this thing out. So that's going to look basically like this. We're just not going to do the combo box part because that's kind of covered externally. So we just say, fuck you. And we need like a ID suffix. Like purpose maybe. Because this guy needs unique identifiers for everything. So here we'll just put the ID purpose in here. Okay. And then I guess we need to have something that we do if this thing is selected. So maybe we will return the selected ID. Right? So we'll say if they select something, we will tell you about it. Right? So we can be like object ID like this. We return ret at the end, and then here we just say ret is equal to which ID, which is pretty cool. I guess we also want to say which one is selected. Okay, so here we can go like if selected is equal to object ID value. There we go. And can we be like, can we go like selected not equal to null and this? Is that legal? And then can we like, I don't know, like make this look less like shit? Jeez. Select was selected. Then we can kind of pull this shit out like this. And then we can just call this select clicked, I guess. And then here we'll say if clicked. We say, here you go. Here you go. Okay, so now we can replace whatever the fuck this was with add composable objects. The purpose is going to be compose, and selected is null. All right. And then if selected, ID selected, we do this. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So then we can add this same thing to whatever the fuck we were just working on, this. And our purpose now is uniform input. right? We're looking at the uniform input, and maybe we put an underscore there because I'm not really sure if he supports whatever. And then if that thing happens, for now we will just do nothing. Let's just see what that gives us. Fuck. This does need a little question mark over there. And then fuck 353. This thing, I guess, can fail if that buff print fails, which is fair. Okay. We are chilling, so this composable stuff still seems to still be working. And now our masked object, we can like choose what goes in here. He has to actually do something with it, but we do have a list of all of the things that we could add as an input texture here, which is pretty sick. You named it available. Well, what you gonna do? Okay, so if we do something here, I guess we return some sort of property action. And that property action is gonna be like, set binding value. And this is gonna be like, we have some sort of like val as an obj-mod object ID. And what is like the index, I guess, for the binding that we're setting, which is gonna be a, should we use a strong type here? I think that seems pretty reasonable. Maybe not, I don't know. I don't know. Shader binding value, maybe. So now we can go over here and be like, let's fucking set that shit. So we have our index up here, so we can be like, ret is equal to, does ret need a star here? Ret is a property action, so now we just go like this. Set shader binding value, and our index is index, and our val is selected object. Okay. Which he doesn't like. Probably because selected object already exists somewhere. No? What's he pissed about? Fuck. That does exist already. So what are we calling this? This is gonna be like, okay, fix me. Like, we're at like, how many indent levels is this? One? Like, so many I can't count. Look at this indent level and scope. Like, this is one of the reasons why I like splitting out, I should be splitting out functions, because like I'm just name colliding on shit that's like so far away from me, right? But you know, uniform dep, I guess we'll call it. Fuck it. Okay. So now somewhere we have to actually like do the action. So here we can just be like set uniform value, and we will take in params dot index and params val. Okay. Which probably is going to be like something like this. What would we call it? Set uniform value. Slide here. Fuck it. Which takes in self as an app, index as a usize, and the param value is an object ID. Okay, and I guess we say, I don't know. So we go like, what is my selected object? Okay, and this thing we want to get it as a shader. So this is just shader ss. So now we can be like, yo, get me that shit as a shader, please. Otherwise, we have a problem. Fuck off. We can't do this right now. Which maybe should be an error. Not shader, I guess is pretty reasonable. Selected item, not shader. And then now we just have like a shader. So can we just be like fucking bindings at IDX equals well? I so if you like if IDX is greater than shader data bindings when greater than or equal to, then we have like another problem. So we're like, fuck you. Invalid shader index. Okay. How's that look? Any chair recommendations? I've been sitting on a plastic chair for a while and I feel like I deserve an upgrade. Dude, sitting on a plastic foldable chair is crazy. There we go. This is working. This is working, which is pretty sick. Pretty sick. I have no recommendations. I have some Staples chair from like 10 years ago, which is probably bad as well. And then if we look at like the masking object, then we can be like apply this mask to this object, which is pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. It's not even foldable. I guess that's probably an upgrade. Not foldable, probably better than foldable, would be my guess. Okay. We have some leakies of the uniforms, probably. Probably just didn't do something like alloc free self bindings, nice. And then I guess probably in here we probably have to free I want to go like for self uniforms uniform dinit with our alloc and then alloc free self uniforms. That should probably be all of them. So what do we do when we were testing this? We just kind of like clicked around in here and then hit close. Nice. Chillin'. Okay. So now we actually have to like use those things. So I guess like on render, we're probably gonna try to like resolve the binding somehow, right? So we're like, I'm rendering a shader, and instead of going through these input images, we're gonna be like for S bindings. Can we even just pass it in directly? Like kind of like no, because we need to convert these things to textures. Yes. So we need to be like we have this like rendered texture thing. So it's literally just instead of S input images, we go over our S bindings. We'll just call this like dependency, dependent obj input, we'll call it. Yeah. Nice. And then just instead of input image here, like what is this? That's literally an object ID. So we just literally write object input here, which is pretty chill. And so now just instead of textures here, we'll write like bindings, bound textures. And then eventually this is going to have to, like maybe we don't even change this. Eventually this is going to have to get upgraded, right? For sure. To support other types of inputs. But for now, textures is the only thing we can do. So we might as well just leave it like that. Which I think means that now if we just go in here, we just here say, we have an invalid texture, right? So we'll just say if this thing exists, if this thing does not exist, if this thing exists, I guess we do this, right? Else we do sources texture invalid. We'll just kind of do this. All right, boom. Okay, that seems pretty good. Obj input is pissed because I don't know. We need to take the inside value. Okay, and so now if we go in here, okay, Oh fuck, there's recursion. That's not good. So we need to check if the object ID is equal to ourself, which we don't really have access to. Oh, that's a problem. Fix me. I guess maybe this is like a UI problem. We'll put like a fix me assert here that there's no recursion. But really in the UI, we should prevent ourselves from clicking ourselves. So can we say like rejected ID? So we'll just say like if object ID is equal to rejected ID. Continue. Will we do that? I guess somewhere has to call these things. So this guy is null here, and this guy we use our ID, which is like. Can we pass in the selected object ID here? And then is objects get selected object ID like this, and then now we can pass that in as reflection. It is November after all. I'm sure that was funny for some reason, but I don't know why. I can't remember that far back. What was this about? Yeah, we didn't write like object ID here. Okay, we can't do equals equals on that thing because one of them's nullable and one of them's not. So here we just say like if rejected ID and this. There we go. This is not equal to null. There we go. Let me in. Not allowed for type object ID. Oh, is that actually the problem? Strong typing? Do you work as a software engineer or just a hobbyist? I mean, I have worked as a software engineer. It's been done. It's been done in the past. Okay, so this seems like it's working. Cersei JPEG swap doesn't have Cersei JPEG in here. And now we can start like stacking stuff, right? So if we took like the problem here is that Bannister swapped here needs to actually say that he depends on Bannister, and then Cersei swap can depend on Bannister swap, and it swaps it back. That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. There's like an initialization problem here. Where like someone's setting initial. We need to like disable this like initial values thing. Render program. No, this is coming from. Let me look. Okay, so on render, these things like seem to be having some sort of input. So what's going on there? Renderer. Here we're saying like use invalid texture, which I'm surprised is like working. There's definitely a problem there. I don't know what it is. Maybe invalid texture isn't doing what I think it's doing. Okay, and then somewhere else, someone is setting like initial texture IDs, which is bad. I'm just trying to remember where that is. I think it's in like the program. We have, no, fuck. It's in the object shader object. This thing has input images, so fuck that shit, and probably texture names. Just get that the fuck out of here too. Right? Because those are kind of automatically detected now. So kind of like get this shit out of there. Okay. Okay. So get this shit out of there. Undeclared identifier with. What's this problem with that? Did I delete too many inputs here? I did. Okay. So we kind of want like this to go away. We kind of want like this texture locations to go away, I guess, because like we're gonna figure them out. Okay. So that means this goes away, which means this goes away. But then, like, we somehow need to go through textures here. And we need to pull these from binding or uniforms. So we actually kind of want to like iterate over like self uniforms, I think. It's kind of what I suspect here. And then we're going to be like, I guess we go from 0 onwards here and pull that out as I. That lets us do this. And then we kind of set this at uniform lock, I guess. Like this. Sure. Why is he pissed about width missing? That didn't save? I don't remember if I answered this. Do you work as a software engineer or hobbyist? I mean, I have worked as... No, I definitely answered this. Because I said I have worked as an engineer. I'm just not right now. This sounds familiar. I think we don't need these either. Okay, so now when we construct this thing, we have problems. Can we just... That's in some, like, downstream project that we don't really care about right now. So let's just get this out of the way. I don't really care about this failing right now. What else is failing? Nothing? Okay. Fuck, never mind, I lied. Renderer Zig 24. So this guy's initializing this thing, and he doesn't need to detect the textures anymore. But he does probably need to bind something here. What is this used for? Never mind. The bindings are at a higher level. Never mind. 27, we have another one of these things that's like auto-detecting uniforms, so fuck that shit. Texture locations doesn't exist at 296. That's true. We got rid of that shit. Input images do not exist anymore. That is true. Texture names also doesn't exist, which is kind of interesting. Okay. And then copy texture names probably also isn't used actually anymore, now that I'm looking at that. And he's mad about object.zig82. He's like, this thing doesn't take in texture names anymore. Which is true. No field name input images at 236. True, which means duped images also doesn't exist anymore, which means input images doesn't exist anymore. Although maybe it should. Initial bindings might make sense, but we'll kind of tackle that as we need to. I think we're just gonna put a fix me here that's like, make sure initial bindings are set. I think that makes sense. I'm not really sure if they belong there or not. Fix me, apply existing bindings. That probably has to be done there. AppZig 254. So here when we create a shader object, I think that we just don't set initial things. You just say like, fuck it, do what you want. We'll see. I'm not really sure where that's used, but add shader object. So here, I guess we want to be like, shader ID is this thing. And then we want to go like shader app set. What do we call this thing? Like we had a way to like set the binding. What do we call it? We call it set uniform value. So given like the current thing, we want to first like select the shader object. And then when we construct this like shader swap thing, we just want to set the uniform value at 0 to this object. I think that's how this works now. I'm not 100% on this, but it feels kind of right. 179 at AppZig. I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at here. Create path. Yeah, okay, so when we create a path, we automatically... Where is this coming from? Okay, I got it. Okay, so when we create a path, we automatically make this, like, mask application thing. Right, so first we have to say that we have this. Okay. I guess maybe we don't need this. Maybe we say, like, let's make the shader object. Okay, so we do kind of like this. And then we take out these things, but we do still need to set the selected objects with this. So how do we do that? We say, like, shader obj bindings at 0 is going to equal this. And at 1 is going to equal this. Okay, that kind of feels right. And then here we can say shader is shader obj like this. Okay. Renderer 312 is pissed about something. Expected type usize found. Oh. That's true. He's a little tiny. No field name input images. 228, I think it said. No, it said 258. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so that's true. On save, we don't need to write that down or this down anymore. And then on load, presumably, there's probably like save data for this like shader that also wrote these things down and he doesn't need them anymore. Okay. Lintzig, he's pissed off because he was calling add shader object. I kind of want to give this the same treatment where we say app set selected object to shader ID, and then we can like set what we want the inputs to be. So app set uniform value of 0 to ID, I guess, is the equivalent here. I think that it's likely that we need to, like, we can't rely on the indexes, I bet. I bet that somewhere we're going to have to update this to take in, like, the name or something instead. That might make more sense, but... so this is mad at... We can't load our save anymore because it's got a bunch of stuff in it that we don't use anymore in our save. In the future, we would, like, handle save upgrade, but we're not going to do that. So let's just start with, like, you know, our typical thing. So this is good. We have successfully like made one swap shader for Cersei, and it can only take in Cersei, right? So if we were to then kind of do this and say, I want one for Cersei, one for Bannister, one for Slurpee, then we still are generating this thing automatically. But now I can say like, bitch, let's just like triple up on Slurpee, on Cersei. The width and height of this thing should now depend, I think, the display width and height for the shader object should depend on something. I guess, like, by default, picking... our problem here is we need to pick a display dimension, and we don't really know which object ID is supposed to be our, like, parent, right? So really, this should be like an editable width and height on here, right? We should go in here, and if we like switch this, we should be able to change this to match the dimensions of this, right? So really, we should have like in the UI a way to change the dimensions, but I don't think I'm gonna do that right now. I guess I kind of have to. We could also maybe pick a Saint default here. Where maybe in like object, we look at our shader object, and I wonder if we should like just pick the first object ID or something. Yeah, can we look at like dims here and say like if we have no bindings, return like 100 by 100, and then else return s bindings 0, If this is 0 or s bindings 0 is equal to null, we just do that. Otherwise, we're like, yo, send me that shit. So now it should like kind of track a little bit better. Although there are people now who are trying to use that thing. Okay. Expected type object found object ID. Fine. Fine. We'll be like that. And then appzig 258 is mad about width and height here. Which is mad about width and height here, which means that whoever calls this needs to be like, fuck off. Who else calls this? There's the other guy over here. Okay, which means that this isn't used, which means that this isn't used. All right, who else is pissed off? Appzig 176. Okay, so just kind of like nuke that shit. Object sig 258 is mad about this. And probably the save data here also stores the width and height, which we don't need. All right, so now if I change this to Cersei, now we've got the right aspect ratio, which is pretty sick. Pretty sick. Okay. Cool. And then what happens now if I like try to create a path here, render some mask? That mask is now working correctly, and the masked object is now, we could change this to work on the banister, and we can change this to work on the Slurpee. That's pretty cool. And we can mask it off with like the red channel of Cersei. That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. Okay, can we go into the source code, I guess, for the renderer and look at like the mask stuff? And we need to name these things a little bit better now, right? Because everything that has like a texture input now, we need to be like, this is our input, right? Input image. Right, and then like down here, we need this to be like input image and mask, right? That way, like, it looks a little better. Fuck! That is true that I just changed the names but didn't change the usage. Life is hard sometimes, you know? So this should be input image mask, and then this should be the mask val, and then this is like mask val here. And then what's the other one? Input image like this. All right, how's that look? How's that look? Still says U texture here, which is a little confusing. This doesn't exist anywhere. So why does it still say U texture? Oh, because in main, we're using a custom color swap shader as like a proof of concept. And this guy also needs to say input image like this. All right. There we go. Okay, that's pretty good. That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. So we've kind of done both of these things now. And what is the next thing to do here? I think that we want to, like, I want to play around, I think, with like a value shader, right? Something where we can like punch in a number. So can we like, maybe we'll say this like detect image uniforms in shader and edit shader image uniforms. I think the next thing I want to do is like add UI for like color input or something. Or maybe like float input, we'll say first. So can we like make a, we replace this like swap colors fragment shader with a contrast enhancement shader? We'll just name it the same thing because fuck it. And can we be like, give me a float in here, right? And let's say that this is the like contrast multiplier, right? We don't need fucking comments that say the texture, or how fucking stupid are we? And then we'll say that we have this value, and this value gets like subtracted by 0.5, multiplied by contrast multiplier, and then added to 0.5. I think that does what I want. Except that this should be like temp XYZ this is all not applied to the alpha channel. Right? I think that makes sense. And then can we just say a fragmentable temp like this? Okay, so what we should see here is these things get like fucked up because the contrast multiplier defaults to 0. Can we default this to something? To make it like seem like something is happening? Nice. Okay. So that's working now. And then can we then say, let's like look at the UI right now. Presumably in the UI, we just don't show this stuff, right? Okay. But what if we wanted to show it? We go to renderer, look at the code that is trying to find the uniforms. And in here now, we just have to support that type. So here will be like float, right? Which I assume is like this, but we'd have to check. So this comes from GL get active uniform, which we have open here, and it's GL float. Hell yeah, dude. Okay. So if we see a float now in the UI, can we get its like default value? Can we extract like what its value is from the shader? GL uniform get default get value. GL get uniform. Parsing time? No. I think we can do it without. So I think this is GL get uniform FV, right? Yeah. So depending on the type here, we need to extract this thing in a different way. Which means that like this thing probably needs like a default. That like depends on its type. I guess. So this is going to depend on the GLSL type, right? And we're going to be like, if it's a float, it's a float. And if it's a image, it's nothing. Right? We'll say that for images, there is no sane default, but for floats, there are. Okay. So here we're like, switch on this thing. Image, we do nothing. I guess we just return image. But if it's float, we return float is equal to some like default, right? So we need to get this. Var default is probably an F32 equals 0, right? This thing has to be like this, and then we break block with this. And then we need to like call GL get uniform FV on this thing with program and like location and default. And then we go like const default. All right. Which I don't know if it's going to be able to figure out the type automatically there. We'll see. He is pissed off because, like, yeah, we need to say somewhere. Default is a uniform default. Boom. Now he's just pissed at 181. We need to main.sig 316. here we go. We need to like say that if we have a float, we're gonna be like, give me some sort of dragger, and we're going to, what are the inputs here? We have the label, which is just gonna be the bound object name. No, this name here. So we have name already, like this. The value is going to come from, can we just like do, it doesn't make sense to just like fucking change that shit right here. Feels kind of wrong. But whatever. V min negative std math inf f32 max is std math inf f32 format is like 3 f and 0, I guess. Okay. And then presumably this won't compile because this needs a star, I guess. Nice. And then found this, expected that. Really? Doesn't this give me back? Oh. I guess we don't really need, the type is redundant information here. And so, whoa, hold on. What the fuck am I doing? It isn't redundant. I'm stupid. No, it is. But we don't want to look at that over there. That's the problem, is that like, we want to look at the binded value. Okay, so can we look at like renderer, wherever the fuck we call this thing at default, can we just call this thing like a uniform value? Okay. Then in the object itself, this is going to look like this, I think. Right? And then here, we're going to replace bindings with uniform value. Oh, yeah, that's feeling pretty good. That's feeling pretty good. So then we can look at the shader bindings. And then here, I think we're chilling. Coercion of this to this, blah, 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 at 261. So wherever we set the default there, this is just going to be like this, I guess. The default is no image. Renderer Zig 276 is mad because, like, what the fuck is he bitching about? No field type. True, dude. Okay, so now bindings at object Zig 239 is like, yo, bitch, bindings is the wrong type. Okay. Which means that now we have to memset this thing to like, bindings is going to equal the default. Right, so we're going to be like this. We go like bindings IDX is equal to uniform. We go like for each one, we say this is the fucking default value. Nice. All right. Load from save. Surely that's not happening right now. Okay, so, or this thing is not equal to an image. or this is equal to null. Okay. Fix me better heuristics, please. For getting the object dimensions, it's just like, if the first thing's on an image, we're fucked. Get fucked us. Now what the fuck am I looking at? I think it's like this. Expected optional type, found this. Oh, it's the other way. Okay, and then at 2:30 in app, he's pissed off that we can't just unconditionally set an object ID now. This has to be a uniform value, right? Which means that whoever calls this thing needs to be like image is equal to this. And we should put a fix me on here and be like by name question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark. And then here, this thing needs to be a like renderer uniform value, which kind of means that we need const renderer. So take here. Right. Kind of hand wavy. Then whoever sets this thing, here he just needs this to be like image, like this, and then we don't modify it in place. Var new var val is equal to f, and then we use val here, and then if this is changed, we say do this thing, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't know. We're playing. Yeah, true. This thing doesn't have a name anymore. Okay. So now can we look at binding here? Something like this. Bindings 0 at 177 in app. That's true. This needs to be like, give me some images now, I guess. Okay, and then at renderer, somebody's mad that this thing is going to give me a texture. Interesting. This thing needs to take in a list of like uniforms now, right? This thing's gonna be like a uniform value. And here we're gonna have to like look at the type, I guess, and like do something different depending. So this is like val is uniforms I, okay, and switch on the val, and depending on the val, if it's like an image, first we need to assert, we need to check that the uniform value is the same as our type. Yeah, so we need to be like, if uniform default is not equal to, how do we like extract the tag? Uniform, is it just like, how do I know if the types are the same? Zig compare uniform types. Surely that's possible, right? Uniform, or I guess it's like stood meta probably. Tag. Active tag. Yeah. Stood meta active tag of val. If this is not true, stood log error invalid uniform type, uniform type mismatch. Okay. Continue. Otherwise, now we can just be like switch on uniform val, I guess. If it's image, we do, you know, this. Except this is expecting an object ID, which is fucked. So here we almost want like resolved uniform value, right? And here our like image is now a texture, I guess. Kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense. Which lets us do kind of this. And then if it's a float, we can do uniform 1f of the float here. And then this thing needs to take in a resolved. That should never happen from user external internal bugs, right? Yeah, I think so. But I think I don't really feel a need to crash there. I was considering an assert, but I'm not convinced that I'd prefer it. You know? Value. Don't want to fix that right now. Okay, so now when we like resolve these things, we need to do like, we need to like fix these things all over the place, like this. Sources here, we need to be like, this needs to be like an array list of resolved uniform values. And like depending on like what the fuck our binding value is, we need to like switch on the binding, right? And if it's image, we do whatever the fuck we were doing here, right? Right. But then we have like a case where we can be like float. It's literally just like pass that shit along. Okay, okay. That doesn't seem like too crazy. This guy's pissed off at 91 somewhere. I guess we can take out the inner thing. 106. This needs an inner on him as well. Who else? 125. I guess we do this. Okay. He's pissed off at, jeez. Active tag. So that's at renderer 125. Really? What the fuck? At 125, render object with transform. He must be actually mad about the thing in here, right? He must be pissed about this. Yeah, okay. But I don't really understand the problem here. Active tag returns the active tag of tagged union. Yeah, so what's the fucking problem? So we have a uniform here, which is a uniform dot default, I guess is what we want, huh? There we go. 352. He's pissed about like this is now just a GLU int. And we're getting so close. I kind of like, you know, sometimes you just get to like fuck around And that feels kind of good. You know? I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess it's just like, I like did something, and then now it's just like, my brain's like almost completely fucking off. Right? It's just like, I'm just doing whatever. And like, the compiler's just telling me what to do next, and that's kind of nice. You know? What the fuck is this thing talking about? Bound object ID. Oh, here we need to write like I here, probably, or image. Right, and then this is image bound object ID like this. Okay, 319. So he's pissed off about some missing else prong, probably because this was supposed to be like this. Some call that compiler system refactor. Yeah, I've heard, dude, my brain. Zozin. Is that how you say that guy's name? I've heard him talk about it that way before. This thing is pissed because the uniform's length is different. That's kind of a problem. So that's coming from like background program render. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Why is that? Background program comes from the plane vertex on the checkerboard fragment shader, which takes in an aspect. Oh, probably. I see. So there are like things in there that are like private, which is kind of odd. So probably we're gonna get like aspect ratio parameter leaking out everywhere. Oh, luckily it's not used in most of these, so we're chilling. Okay, so now, oh, tell me that isn't fucking sick, guys. Tell me that's not fucking sick. I mean, the value is like shown wrong. But this is just because I've got like percent here. Yeah, dude, tell me that's not fucking cool. Where we can now like write a shader to boost the contrast and just like fucking dump that shit in there. That's so good. That's so cool. So now we can be like, yeah, let's like boost the fucking contrast with this. Like that's fucking awesome. This is like exactly what I was imagining. Oh, that's so sick. Yeah, that's so awesome, dude. And then presumably I can now be like, let me use this in my composition. Like, let me cut this bitch out. Right? Add this to the composition. And now I can just go back into this, like drop the contrast down, and that shows up here. Oh, that's so cool. That's so awesome. Oh, it's beautiful, man. Now, it'd be nice if I didn't have to like jump around this flat object list, which will come eventually. It's really hard for me to remember now, like, where is this coming from? But that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Okay, I wanted to do color input as well. I wanted to be able to like, can we try tinting a program? Or tint, like, we'll try applying a tint. I guess we should probably make a commit. Be like float, like shader uniform control, we'll call it. Is there any like new zig files? Not that I see. Oops. We missed TTF for Viz thing. We kind of forgot that thing had to be committed. Okay. Yeah, I think nothing else in here is critical. Okay. So I wanted... I wanted like to do like a color tint thing. So what does tint look like? I guess we kind of like, where's my fucking shader? Where is my shader here? So I think let's use this right now as like just kind of like amount that we want to tint red. So if we wanted to tint something red, we would be like, get the initial value from the texture. Then like, is there like a lerp in GLSL mix? Okay. Where A is the value to use to interpolate, right? So it can be like mix. We have like some input. I guess the value that we are passing in is the mix thing. So we want to be like temp and R red and contrast multiplier. And we probably want to do like red times temp. Yeah, that's probably what we want to do. And then it's kind of going to look like this, I think. And then we want temp. Something like this. Temp dot. What am I trying to do? Fuck, my brain. Oh, we want red. There we go. Vec for red is equal to 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay. So first of all, let's just see if that does what I want. Okay, so yeah, that does what I want. And then I wanted to be able to like punch this in as a color now. So I want to like kind of like arbitrarily choose the color. So we're gonna have like another import that's like the mix color, right? That's gonna be like 1, 0, 0 for now, right? And so then we can just take red and just say vec for mix color 1.0 and this, right? I think that makes sense. Mix amount. Okay, so now this thing still shows up, and now we just need a way to like show that thing in the UI. So we can be like, what am I trying to look for? Renderer. We are trying to look for GLSL type. And we'll call this float3. Okay. Then we need to kind of say float3 here is just 3 F32s. Same with here. And presumably people are going to yell at us. So renderer 277. Float3 is literally the same shit. But I assume like GL get uniform here. Do I throw a 3 at this? No, I just have to make sure that the thing I'm asking for is the right size. Presumably, right? So we just put a 3 here and then 3 like this. I assume that that's going to do the right thing. It could be wrong, but we will find out soon. Right, we gotta do this for now. Main 319, he's pissed because we need to figure out how to display that thing. Let's start as only showing a drag 3. But I do want to like support showing this show as color widget. There's like a color widget that exists, I think. Right, we have like this thing. We just have to be able to like, we'll be able to choose between them. But for now, let's just try drag float 3, just to see that everything is working. Everything else I think stays the same in here. And this just let's float 3 now. Everything else kind of works. Fuck! Just kidding. Renderer 358. Float 3 needs like 3F, and this thing takes in the 3 things, so like this. Pretty reasonable. 98 is pissed about this, so here we don't have anything special to do. Like Freddy said, I want to float 3. What does that mean? Oh, tell me that isn't fucking cool, guys. Tell me that's not cool. So now we can tint it whatever color we want. That's fucking awesome. Tell me that isn't cool. Tell me that's not cool. Tinted orange? Tell me that isn't fucking awesome. That's so sick. So sick. And then I guess we can kind of like also tint it to like really dark. We can make it look like nighttime out. By being like, yo. Maybe make it like look a little like orange light, like nighttime incandescent lighting. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Yeah, okay, so now I just want this to show up as like a potential color input as well. So here, can we just like also like fuck it? Like, you know, just slap that same shit in here. I mean, that's so awesome, dude. That's actually so sick. So you'd be like, tint this thing pink? Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess here, we could just only use the color edit, right? Because since it lets you punch in like kind of like the default values here. Although I would like to show these things as floats. What are my options for the color edit flags? Float. Okay. And then like no label is maybe it. But at the very least, I want this one. At the very least. Yeah, there we go. And I guess this is fine. Like, we could show it as XYZ as well, but I think that, like, you know, I, using this, will understand that a vector 3 RGB is the same as XYZ. I think that I'm capable of understanding that. And I think that the value of having the color picker here is really good. So at some point, I don't know, we did, color input. Okay. So the next thing would be to do notify, like export this thing to a temporary path so that I can edit them. Which do I want to do right now? I think that it's like pretty straightforward, but I also don't feel like doing it. So I think maybe we call it there for the day. But it's actually like pretty fucking sick. I'm pretty happy with where we are. Right? We've managed to kind of automatically resolve. Would you ever need to support negative values if it represented vec3 rather than RGB? Oh, that's a good point. It does clamp it, huh? That's a pretty good point. Is that something that I'm like allowed? No inputs, no tooltip. Yeah. I guess I wonder what happens if you say allow HDR. That's a pretty good point, though. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. That fixes it. Good eye, though. Good eye. Good eye indeed. So this thing still kind of clamps us to 1.0 here. But now I can like manually set it and just go like fucking buck wild here if I want, right? Which is fine. Cool. All right. Yeah, I think that I'm gonna call it there. The next steps are just gonna be like, there'll be like a little button in here, or like maybe like a selectable label here that shows us the path of this thing in a temporary directory, and then we'll set up like an iNotify watch to look at that thing. I'm not sure if that's worth doing in its own stream. I don't really feel like doing it right now, so I might do it in happy hour. I might do another stream on this. Not sure. Not sure. But otherwise, pretty happy with today's progress. This is so cool, right? So can we like go into Cersei and like, can we adjust the lighting here so that it looks more like the banister lighting? Right? So if we just say like, I guess these colors are pretty close actually. But we could, if we wanted to, kind of make her look kind of orange. Which is kind of cool. Super cool. All right. There are negative values in some film pipelines, I believe, related to film grain. Yeah, I mean, especially if even if we're just like not doing color, it makes a lot of sense, right? All right, cool. I think that this unlocks a lot, like a lot. This is super cool, super cool. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, we stream most days around 12:30 Pacific time to 4 o'clock Pacific time. It is 3:40 Pacific time now. So if you are watching live, you can expect us to see us online between 3 hours ago and 20 minutes from now. And we're working on this image editor, and if you want to see like previous progress on this thing, there's a YouTube link in the Twitch description where we have this organized into playlists. We're looking at the image manipulation playlist right now. There's also a bunch of other stuff in here if you want to check that out. QR code decoder, maps thing, video editor. Like there's a lot of stuff in here. GPU, virtualized GPU implementation. There's a GitHub link in the Twitch description if you want to see the code for this. It will show up in this FIMP repo. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a Twitch link in the YouTube description. If you want to see like the happy hour content, which is kind of like cleanup and kind of supplemental content, that's archived on Patreon or YouTube member streams, or not streams, like the YouTube member section. I think that's all we have to plug. Thank you for watching, guys. Catch you on the next one. YouTube, peace out, and Twitch, let's find someone to raid.